Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. We're back today to continue our series on the greatest personalities of the high-tech world. And today, we take a look into the life of the late Steve Jobs. But as always, before we start, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you don't miss the next news. Let's go. Let's find out about the life of Steve Jobs right away. If you have never read the biography of Steve Jobs, or seen the film about this famous character, you will learn a lot in this video. Steve Jobs was born on the 24th of February 1955. His biological parents, a Syrian student and a young American Catholic woman, were forced to abandon their baby. His biological grandfather threatens to disinherit his mother if she decides to marry a man who is not Catholic. Our baby Steve is adopted by an American couple, Paul Reinhold Jobs and his wife Clara Hagopian. The family soon moved to California, and young Steve grew up with his passion for electronics. Steve went on to receive a normal education. At the age of 13, the young boy did not hesitate to call the president of Hewlett-Packard. Specializing in electronics, young Steve, after a long conversation, finally got the parts he needed for a project, and even got a summer job at HP. In high school, he met his friend and sidekick, Steve Wozniak. In 1972, the young man headed to Portland to continue his studies at Reed College. Like many computer geniuses, Steve Jobs began to get bored at university. He decided to stop his studies and attend the ones that interested him as a free listener. The young man experimented with many things in the hippie trend of the time. In 1974, he decided to return to his parents' home and soon found a job as a video game designer at Atari. Still influenced by the hippie culture, he went on a trip to India with a handful of friends. Once back in the US, he returned to his job at Atari, where he worked with his sidekick Steve Wozniak to design the electronic circuitry for the game Breakout. In 1975, the two friends designed a computer prototype, and on the 1st of April 1976, the Apple company was born. This was followed by an exceptional rise. The two friends quickly assembled the first Apple I in Steve's garage. The following year, they marketed the Apple II, which became the first personal computer to be sold on a large scale. In 1980, the company went public, and it was then that Steve Jobs made a large fortune. Steve Jobs has a daughter with Chrisanne Brennan, his girlfriend at the time. After years of denying the paternity of the child, he finally acknowledged her legally. At the age of 25, he became a multi-millionaire. In 1985, the Apple Lisa was launched, and the following year, the Macintosh was launched, and the mouse was introduced. Steve eventually admitted that the name of the computer was a tribute to his daughter, born a few years earlier. To launch a huge advertising campaign, the young man hires John Sculley, who was then general manager of Pepsi Cola. In 1984, a fierce power struggle began between Steve Jobs and John Sculley. Having lost the battle, Steve was removed from all decision-making positions and decided to leave his own company the following year. Steve Jobs does not let himself be defeated and founds Next Computers. Unfortunately, the products were not successful, but the young man was able to introduce revolutionary technologies. In 1985, Steve Jobs met his biological sister for the first time. After reuniting with his mother, Joanne Carol Scheibel, a Swiss-American, Steve learned that he had a sister, Mona Simpson. The two siblings have a good relationship and become close. While things are going well with the women in his biological family, things are not so good with his father. Steve also researches his biological father, Abdul Fayyad Jandali, a Syrian Muslim, and decides not to meet him. Ironically, however, his biological father had become a restaurant manager and had hosted his son in his establishment a few years earlier. In 1986, Steve Jobs also bought a well-known animation studio, Pixar. At the same time, he obtained a contract with Disney, which took care of financing and distribution. The studio had its first success with the film Toy Story in 1995. The credits include Steve Jobs as executive producer. At the end of 1996, Apple returned to the fold and bought Next. Steve Jobs became CEO again the following September. Under his leadership, Apple emerged from the precipice into which the company was sinking. Nearing bankruptcy, Jobs returned to success with the launch of the iMac in 1998 and the iPod in 2001. Apple went on to revolutionize the music industry with the launch of iTunes in the same year. Finally, the iTunes Store was released in 2003, and the opening of the Apple stores sealed the popularity of Apple products forever. The world is changing fast, and Steve Jobs has not said his last word. If he succeeds in making his mark in the world of computers, he will decide to mark his territory in the world of telephones. In 2007, the famous iPhone was released with great fanfare. A phone that revolutionized everything by integrating internet, music, and video. Apple's shares soared. That same year, Steve Jobs buried the hatchet with Bill Gates. Indeed, the man with the Apple had always had a certain dislike for the boss of Microsoft. This war simply stemmed from the fierce competition between the two computer giants. This was only brought to an end when the two big men appeared on the stage of the All Things Digital conference and complimented each other. The iPad is released in 2010 and sets the Apple brand as a benchmark in the field of technology. Apple's success, especially over 30 years, makes it one of the richest companies on the planet. After having raised Apple to the highest point, the co-founder leaves our world. Stricken with pancreatic cancer since 2003, he passed away on the 5th of October 2011 at the age of 56 at his home in Palo Alto. A computer genius and visionary, Steve Jobs succeeded in making his dream a reality, creating a company that pioneered the personal computer. Tributes will come from around the world to honour the memory of a man whose talent and ideas shaped his time. Apple, now orphaned, sees Tim Cook take the helm of the company, as Steve Jobs had intended. 3 original facts about Steve Jobs from his biography. Number 1. Steve Jobs decides to change the entire design of the iPhone a few months before its launch. At this point, a small team had been working for many months in secret on the iPad project. Apple then decided to team up with Motorola to create a phone called the Rocker, which incorporated the features of the iPod. It turned out to be a complete failure. Steve will say, "The device that could get us into trouble is the mobile phone. The digital camera market has been decimated by camera phones, and the same thing could happen to the iPod if phone manufacturers start to integrate music players into their devices." A true visionary, this one. As a result, a few months before the launch of the iPhone, Steve decided to change the design of the device. A decision that will force the whole team to review the whole internal part of the smartphone. Number 2. He vows the destruction of Android. From the bio, "I said if we have a good relationship that we guarantee Google access to the iPhone as well as an icon or two in the main menu." Steve also threatened Google, saying that if the company continued to develop Android and use any of the iPhone's features, such as multi-touch, he would not hesitate to take them to court. Steve Jobs even went so far as to say that Google products were, and I quote, "crap." Number 3. For Steve Jobs, Microsoft has no taste. As with Google, Steve Jobs has never been soft on Apple's biggest rival, Microsoft. For Steve, it's very clear. Microsoft has no taste and no out-of-the-box ideas. And there you have it, folks. You know all about the life of the genius that was Steve Jobs. If you want to find out more about his life, I encourage you to read the biography Steve Jobs, which is particularly rich in information. Before leaving, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell. As for me, I'll see you soon for new high-tech discoveries. Take care and see you soon.